Welcome to the Wise Words of Motivation channel. Under the title, Act as if nothing bothers you, discover the great power in the rule of Epictetus and Stoic philosophy. The more you reveal the lie, the more likely it is that people will want to hurt you, although this does not always happen, but it is common for some to enjoy seeing you suffer or even contribute to it or aggravate it. This behavior of sadism and envy is unfortunately present in many and can already hinder your personal growth in various areas of life, whether at work, in the circle of friends or even in the family, so learning not to show your weak point may become your strength. Imagine yourself a tree in the middle of a storm, solid and deeply rooted in the earth. This is the image of silent steadfastness that we will learn here. We will talk about how to be stronger if shown. You are not easily affected by external or internal issues, as each challenge teaches you to be like a tree. By acting as if nothing bothers you, you do not deny the storm but choose not to let the rain overwhelm you and the wind fall. You will learn to be the master of your destiny, steady, strong and calm in a sea of chaos. In this video we will talk about 18. The power comes from the noise of thunder, but from the silence of the light that illuminates the road. So for the next few minutes focus on the content, not on distractions. There is no mistake or coincidence in this, but there is a clear goal behind this fact, which is not to fall in love with our voice as much as we are invited to fall in love with other people's voices. By learning from others we progress in life, and not by repeating our speech over and over again. So start from today paying more attention to one of the biggest causes of anxiety and its devastating consequences is the belief that unfavorable conditions are organizing us in. The problem is that one day we are afraid of one of these problems and the next day we are afraid of another problem, and so on. In addition to the good and happy parts of our life, the way of life also keeps us a bunch of problems that are inevitable, so we live in constant tension caused by different stimuli every day. And here comes the role of Epictetus. If you think that all these things you fear have already happened, what could be worse? In this way your soul will develop strategies to cope and move forward with a raised head. The third principle, prepare for failure, because it is the only way to progress. We do the impossible not to be considered fools, but Epictetus has another point of view on this subject. According to his philosophy, one of the best things that can happen to you is we can weigh down what keeps us away from excellence. The fourth principle, be aware of the risks of wealth. This wealth we want to bear. Money has the ability to change people, and not necessarily for the better. Once we become the owner of this much needed resource, we find ourselves owning something we didn't know we owned, and from that moment our soul may begin to poison in the face of the loss of moral values. The fifth principle, does not cling to a single hope. Fortunately we are beings. Diversity means that there is no reason to put all our hopes in one dream, because it can be devastating if we fail in it. So Epictetus encourages us to always remember that death awaits at the end of the road. This advice does not call us to pessimism, but to awareness that death is the final destination of all our actions, especially our efforts. When we think about this, we may begin to evaluate how hard and spend 20 years of our limited life saving money to buy a house that we will not be able to take with us when death comes. As we carry in our bag those things that we consider necessary for our daily life, like the phone, credit cards, toothbrushes, it will be very useful to carry a small notebook containing these principles, because thanks to these principles, we will not see setbacks as misfortunes, and we will not see life as a time when we always get bored, but we will write a more realistic vision of our existence, and certainly we will make better use of the time of our life. The seventh principle, the real wealth lies in the spirit of dawn. Because of stoicism, Epictetus had a special perception of happiness, and we can riches that have not yet become part of our lives, because while we allow ourselves to complain and grieve about what we miss, we lose precious minutes of. The eighth principle is to introduce humility into your life. If you really want to learn something, it is necessary for a person to learn what he thinks he already knows. Through this phrase Epictetus invites us to take advantage of our humility, especially in the field of learning. That going through life boasting of the pride of knowledge distances us more and more from the exactly what we intend to learn. In this way, we will look at everything with the eyes of a child who it carries an ability to surprise as much as it carries a desire to learn. Principle 9, guilt is synonymous with the plague. Narrow-minded people blame others and ordinary people blame themselves, but the wise people see all guilt as a protection. Phrase from Epictetus. Healers nowadays seem to treat guilt as feelings that must be eliminated from our lives. The only way to win the competition against, therefore, Resorting to it is a temptation that is difficult to escape from. Only people who are driven by a strong determination to overcome are able to avoid guilt, and yet they take responsibility for their actions. The 10th principle is forming alliances with successful people. It is strange how when someone sneezes next to us we immediately move away, driven by fear that they will become infected, and yet we are not equally careful to avoid one of the most common infections that we are exposed to daily. Father Keto's left us, others leave us full of joy and activity. So one of the smartest the decisions we can make are to ally with those who bring positive energies into our lives, while saying goodbye to those who have the ability to make us regret our existence. Principle she never forget that your reactions shape your destiny. We should not underestimate the reactions of our actions, because they certainly determine our success or failure, and Titus was very clear on this. Its occurrence is what will determine the difference from that moment on. For some people, divorce means entering into a world. Remember that your life is not what happens to you, but what you do with what happens to you. The 11th principle: do not forget that your reactions shape your destiny. We must not underestimate our reactions, because they are the ones that determine our success or failure. Definitively, Epictetus was very clear about this. We knew that we do not have the ability to choose what for some people. Divorce means entering the world of depression and self-sacrifice. In return for Kate, it is an opportunity. Golden way to start on the path of self-knowledge. Remember that your life is not what happens to you, but what you do with it. Principle number 12: always do your duty. For each of us a role in society and in the world, and the sun does not need praise or spells to rise every morning, but it does it every day, and this is final. So as every part of nature does its work, we must fulfill our obligations. If we are waiting for praise or praise to do our work, we are failing both in the environment to which we belong and in ourselves. If we know what our mission is and realize that other people depend on it, it is our moral duty is to fulfill it without waiting for someone to remind us of that. Third principle. 10. Don't hate those who hate you, just ignore them. You are much bigger and completely louder than the person who criticizes, despises, and discriminates against you. So don't waste your precious time hating that person, because he doesn't even deserve to be present in your thoughts. We encourage not to be afraid of people who hurt you, because that noise is an unfortunate attempt to harm you, so ignore it and be immune to it. Principle 14. Bet on simplicity. Why are we living in austerity if today we have the possibility to surround ourselves with all kinds of? The answer is simpler and more logical than you think, because wealth does not maintain itself, but requires commitment and a lot of daily energy to maintain this system of wealth and wealth. On the contrary, when we choose a simple lifestyle, we stop being surrounded by the pressure of having to meet the deadlines for paying bills, loans, and credit cards. The rough principle is 10. When you allow other people's comments and attitudes to annoy you, you give up control over your life. Anyone who is able to make you angry becomes your master. However, this person can only make you angry when you allow yourself to be annoyed by him. Makes us Epictetus understand that there are many keys inside of us, some of which lead to happiness, while others lead directly to emotional ruin, and this is precisely the key, the last we deliver to those who they make us angry. The solution to this problem is to put a barrier that prevents us from being influenced by other people's attitudes, because of course everyone is the owner of what he says and also what he decides not to follow. The 16th principle. Live friendship above wealth. The real wealth are the real friends, because they will be there to support us if our material wealth or whatever happens. It's up to you to benefit from it or not. These were the words of Epictetus. As you see, it's not about having a choice to extract good from adversity, but rather that. Imagine that one day you arrive at work to discover that you will be fired instead of Elias, and accuse the universe that is against you. You have the choice to venture into the project you dreamed of while you were fulfilling your work schedule with people you didn't like. So always try to look for the positive in the situation, as this movement will take you further out of your control. You have your opinion but not your reputation. You have the desire and enthusiasm to search, but you can't. According to Beckett, we are called to cultivate values that we have the ability to change, but it is also our responsibility to let what is out of our control and let fate take over, in addition to being very useful in everyday life. The principles of the Stoics are teachings that can help us to overcome difficult times with attention and steadfastness, where there is no place in just to apply what has been learned and move on. I hope you liked the video, since you have come to. Thank you for your precious time and also for listening well. See you in the next video.